and welcome to Desert Island Discs. My guest today is Anne Head. Born in Barking, Anne was a gifted student who won a place at grammar school before being accepted to read languages at Exeter University in the early 1960s, where she met her future husband Mike. Following graduation, the couple moved first back to London, then on to Buckinghamshire, where she worked as a social worker and children's guardian for 40 years before being awarded an MBE for services to children and families in 2008. Wife to Mike for 50 years and mother to 4 daughters, Anne and Mike retired back to Exeter and live now only a few minutes' walk from the student halls where they first met. As well as keeping busy with family and friends, she also spends time working with those suffering from dementia, singing in a choir, and taking part in both English and French book groups. Anne, welcome to Desert Island Discs.
Thank you. I'm honoured to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
So, what made you want to do your own version of the show?
I suppose I had the feeling that as I get towards the end of my life, I'd like to leave some information, some choices of music, some memories for my children and grandchildren.
Great. And what makes you think you're getting towards the end of your life?
Well, I'm going to be 75 next, and I've thought about my parents who died at the ages of 75 and 78, and so that makes me think, well, with luck, I'll live a few more years than them, especially as I haven't smoked, and they did. But now seems like a good time.
OK then, with no further ado, tell us about your first choice.
The first record I've chosen is a record with 2 songs on it, The Teddy Bear's Picnic, and The Chirruping of the Birds is on the Sycamore Tree, which is also called the Dicky Bird Hop, both sung by Anne Stevens. This was the only 78 record I remember my parents having when I was small. We had a very big radiogram, a huge piece of furniture, and the metal needles needed to play records were kept in a little tin and fitted as required. I remember there was a phrase in the first song, "See them gaily gad about." My brother, who was 4 years younger than me, always insisted that it was "see them gaily catapult," and this caused lots of arguments between us.
Sure of a big surprise. If you go down in the woods today, you'd better go in disguise. For every bell that ever there was will gather there for certain, because today's the day the teddy bears have their picnic. Picnic time for teddy bears. The little teddy bears are having a lovely time today. Watch them, catch them unawares, and see them picnic on their holiday. See them gaily gad about. They love to play and shout, they never have any care. At 6 o'clock their mummies and daddies will take them home to bed, because they're tired little teddy bears.
So Anne, choosing your own Desert Island Discs, easy or quite difficult?
No, I found the choices easy, especially when I thought of the ones that I have chosen especially for my children. That was easy to do. And then I added a few seasoned favourites of my own.
Excellent.
The second record is called Mon Plat Pays, sung by Jacques Brel. He's a Belgian singer, and Mon Plat Pays, my flat country, represents Belgium. I love this song and the voice of the Belgian singer. I chose it for myself because it's a very favourite French song of mine, but it's also for Catherine, who enjoyed going to France as a teenager and loves the country and the language still.
La mer du Nord pour dernier terrain vague et des vagues de dunes pour arrêter les vagues et de vagues rochers que les marées dépassent et qui ont à jamais le cœur à marée basse, avec infiniment de brumes à venir, avec le vent de l'Est, écoutez-le tenir, le plat pays qui est le mien, avec des cathédrales pour unique montagne et de noirs clochers comme mâts de cocagne, où des diables en pierre décrochent les nuages avec le fil des jours pour unique voyage et des chemins de pluie pour unique bonsoir, avec le vent d'ouest, écoutez le vouloir, le plat pays qui est le mien, avec un ciel si bas qu'un canal.
My third choice is the cello concerto by Edward Elgar, played by Jacqueline Dupre, and the movement is the Adagio from that concerto. This is a wonderful piece of music played with such passion by Jacqueline Dupre. I can see her still, her hair flying and her concentration absolute. She had, unfortunately, a very short life, which is a shame because she was a genius at the cello. And I chose it for Rosie, who has had such pleasure from playing the violin throughout her life.
So, you very recently celebrated 50 years of marriage to Mike.
Yes, that's right.
Can you sum up half a century, preferably in less than a minute?
Right. Well, I suppose we started off like most people do, very idealistic and in love. We hit some periods of difficulties earlier on when we were jostling with how to work out this thing of having a marriage that's equal and yet both of you want to be in charge of, in a way. And then in our middle years of bringing up the children, life was very busy, but Mike has always been a very supportive partner and very supportive over the care of the children. And in our later years, we've amazed ourselves by being more in love, I think, and with a rich vein of memories to draw on. I recommend a long marriage.
And any tips for having a long marriage? Asking for a friend.
Well, I read somewhere somebody saying, never let the sun go down on your anger, which I think is a good thing to aim at, though I can't say I've always been able to do it. I think it's a very good thing to have some interests in common, because if you can enjoy doing things together, that cements something in the relationship. And a sense of humour helps enormously.
Anne, please tell us about your next choice.
My fourth choice is the Clarinet Concerto by Mozart. I choose this for Lizzie, who had clarinet lessons for a period when she was young and was allegedly good, although she would never let any of us hear her play. The music is sublime, I think. My fifth choice is Serenade to Music by Ralph Vaughan Williams. I choose this for Jade because it reminds me of the time when she and her friend Jessie Collins sang duets together so beautifully. This is much more than a duet, but it is a wonderful tribute to music, which has to be sung by a group of expert soloists. I love it, and especially when the soprano soloist soars above the rest. It's not something I could ever have sung, but it reminds me of how much I've enjoyed singing the soprano line in many choral pieces and in two lovely choirs.
So obviously family is very important to you, and you have 4 daughters and 5 grandchildren.
That's correct, yes.
Who's your favourite?
Well, I think you have a very special feeling for your first child because you can hardly believe you've produced this wonderful, wonderful baby, better than any baby there ever was. But I don't think that means that in the end you love that child more than any of the others. I think we love them all in their different ways. Jade, our foster daughter, came to us at the age of 11, so we missed a lot of years of her life. And inevitably that means that there are some things that we can't share with her and that it's more difficult for her to share with us. But that relationship too has grown and has become very important. So we have been very fortunate. And as for grandchildren, I love all of them to bits and I couldn't possibly choose a favourite.
Tell us about your 6th choice.
My 6th choice is Serenade for Tenor, Horn and Strings by Benjamin Britten. Mike and I went to the festival hall to hear Peter Pears sing this in memory of his long-term partner, Benjamin Britten, not long after Britten's death. It was a very emotional occasion and many people were weeping. We wondered how Pears could manage to sing so beautifully in the circumstances. It was plainly composed with his very individual tenor voice in mind, and it is a wonderful tribute to Britain's genius. My seventh choice is Songs of the Auvergne by Cantaloupe, sung if possible by Jill Gomez, but by any other singer would be fine. I love these songs, which remind me of France and the summer. I used to sometimes get to play the CD on long car journeys with the family, as long as I agreed to other choices being made afterward.
L'aglio del rozzo che fa rumore, figlio d'aglio del rozzo che fa rumore. L'aglio del rozzo che fa rumore, figlio d'aglio del rozzo che fa rumore. Ne te calpa è vero che l'aglio, nel calpendo un guoto che l'aglio di me. Ne te calpa è vero che l'aglio, nel calpendo un guoto che l'aglio di me. Sino figliotto, si vuol morire da piccione, sino figliotto, si vuol morire da. Il tal caponado che l'aglio di rozzo, ai marò migliore che l'aglio di me. Il tal caponado che l'aglio di rozzo, ai marò migliore che l'aglio di me.
Sticking with the theme of children, you were awarded the MBE a few years back for your work in the social care sector?
Yes, the strapline was for services to children and families, and that wasn't my own family, that was children that I worked with. I was a children's social worker all my working career, and the last 20 years or so I was a self-employed guardian ad litem, the person selected by the court to get alongside children who are the subject of proceedings and try to understand their wishes and feelings and convey those to the court that's making a decision about them. A privilege of a job which I thoroughly enjoyed over, I think, probably 22 years.
And with that sector in the news quite a lot recently, do you have any thoughts on how it's been since you left?
I know a bit about that because I still have friends who are active in that service. One of the sad things that's happened is that an administrative body has taken over that service when once it was a collection of experienced individual people. And I think something's been lost in that transfer. When I hear people saying things like, don't bother to spend time with children under 8 because they can't tell you anything, I'm really saddened by that because I know that children as young as 3 can tell you lots if you listen in the right way and choose a medium in which they're comfortable.
And with listening in mind, what's the next song?
My eighth choice is The Angel's Farewell from The Dream of Gerontius by Edward Elgar, sung by Dame Janet Baker. Janet Baker's voice is very special to me, and I have been lucky to hear her live many times. At the time of writing this, she has retired from public performance, but still takes an active interest in music and especially the work of Edward Elgar. The Angel's Farewell is a gentle and caring easing of the soul of Gerontius towards his death, and I have always found it deeply moving. My ninth choice is Fear No More, the Heat of the Sun, setting by Gerald Finzi of the Shakespeare song from Cymbeline, sung by Roderick Williams, baritone. This ticks lots of boxes. It represents a long-term love of Shakespeare, started in secondary school for me by an enlightened English teacher, Douglas Barnes, and developed during our marriage because Mike has the same love. The singer is someone we've followed for many years, having first heard him sing the role of Pilgrim in Vaughan Williams' Pilgrim's Progress in about 1997, and we've enjoyed the company of his parents at lots of musical events over the years. We have been members of the Finzi Society and both appreciate the music he has left.
Obviously, from your song choices, the arts are incredibly important to you. And you mentioned your English teacher there being part of that awakening. Have you ever had a desire yourself to perform or dance or sing or paint?
I've always enjoyed singing, and I've been in 2 choirs, which have given me a lot of pleasure. The visual arts, no, I'm not so good there. Music really has been something that's enriched my life enormously, and I'm very grateful for that. And going to a mixed grammar school meant that even at school I could sing in a choir that had soprano, alto, tenor and bass, and therefore we could sing a repertoire that is probably quite unusual for school children to be able to perform, and I'm enormously grateful for that opportunity, which made me think I would always want to be singing in a choir. So although the music teacher at school was a terrible show-off and loved to dress in an evening gown and prance around in front of the choir and the audience, actually she gave us a very good experience of being able to sing.
Meaning the music has always been with you. So tell us about your 10th choice.
My 10th choice is Ombre mai fu by Handel, sung by Andreas Scholl with the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment. I choose this because it was loved by my Auntie Lily, the loveliest of my mother's sisters. She, in turn, chose it for an important wedding anniversary and spoke of how the shelter of a tree, as described in the song, represented for her the shelter her husband had always given her. I now really know what wonderful shelter and support Mike has given me during our long marriage, and so the choice is for him too.
Tell me if I get any of this wrong, but born just outside of London, then moved to Exeter, then London, then a blip where you ended up in Buckinghamshire, then back to Exeter. Presumably that means you're going back to London again soon.
No, never in a million years, no. Done our bit in London and thoroughly enjoyed it at the time, but now love being in the countryside and on the edge of a city, which can offer a lot as well.
And of course, you now only live a minute's walk from where you actually met Mike.
That's true, yes. I met Mike in Reed Hall, the original house of the Exeter University campus, and we walk past that very building most days of the week.
Anne, please tell us about your final choice.
My 11th and last choice, I'm not sure I was really allowed 11, but I'm taking them, is The Leaving of Stromness by Peter Maxwell Davies. This lovely piece reminds me of the wonderful holidays Mike and I have had in the Hebrides. Leaving is always sad, particularly the final leaving of death. But this music manages to illustrate that sadness whilst rejoicing in the richness and beauty of life. I would like it to be played at my funeral.
Anne, you told me during the last song that your luxury item would be a duvet. So I'm going to give you a copy of the complete works of Shakespeare and the Bible, but you're allowed to take one other book with you. What will it be?
I can't take the complete works of Shakespeare because I've already been given those. So my second choice would be the novels and short stories of Lev Tolstoy.
And why Tolstoy in particular?
Well, I was lucky to be able to study Russian when I was at university with French, and that was very enjoyable. And although I couldn't probably have read anything like War and Peace in Russian, we did read some shorter pieces, people like Gorky and Lermontov.
Which presumably you enjoyed a great deal.
Yes, definitely. I always try and listen to Russian if somebody Russian comes on the television, and the BBC has the very irritating habit of cutting them off midway through the first sentence usually, but I try and understand a few words of it when I can.
And presumably you're planning on writing to the BBC to get a little bit more Russian on Ask
Allow
Serious.
Mr. Putin just a little longer, yes.
OK, well, the waves are coming in and they're sweeping away all your treasured belongings. If you can only save one item of music, which one do you save?
It would have to be The Dream of Gerontius.
Consider it saved. Anne, thank you for coming on Desert Island Discs.
Oh, thank you very much.